friends. Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts.
I feel like there's a lot of momentum on risk-taking and building right now, just really stepping out. And if the Lord has put something on your heart, stepping out in boldness and confidence. And even reading in Hebrews where it talks about don't throw away your confidence because there's great reward, and really trusting Him.
Hey friends, I'm so glad you're joining me today for episode 70. Whoa, did I just say episode 70? That's so wild, but so exciting. Thank you so much for being part of this Creative Impact family. It's been so fun getting to connect with you. One of my favorite things is getting to hear from listeners. So I would love to hear from you. You can reach out on Instagram at Creative Impact Podcast or on our Facebook page, or even just directly at creativeimpactpodcast@gmail.com. Today, I am so excited to bring back to you guys my sweet friend, Jessie Winters. She was an early guest on the podcast back on episode 11 in August of 2020. It was such a joy to catch up with her and to hear how her journey has continued to unfold over the past 2 years. Since we talked last, Jessie has founded Open Sky Connecticut, which is a branch of Open Sky Arts Collective founded by Jenna Vance. So Jessie is currently the director of Open Sky Connecticut, and she shares the incredible story of how God brought this all into being. We chat about the first year of Open Sky Connecticut and some of the exciting ministry that's happening, including things like Sanctuary Barre, connecting with the Bridgeport Rescue Mission, and their recent summer trips. I am continually inspired by Jessie's heart for people and her love for God and the way that she partners with the Holy Spirit day to day. She encourages my faith today, and I think you'll feel that as well. Jessie shares about standing in confidence in who God has created us to be, walking forward in faith, not comparing our journey with others, and things like what it looks like to build and rest. I love connecting with Jessie today, and I encourage you, if you get a chance, to go back and listen to episode 11 so you get to hear more about her story and kind of what brought her up to this point. Thanks again for listening in, and enjoy my conversation with Jessie Winters. I'm so glad that we get to do this and get to catch up again. So it's super fun. We have Jessie Winters back on the podcast. Welcome back.
Yay! Thank you so much, Rachel. It's such an honor to be on again. Thank you for having me again.
For sure. So I was thinking back that you were on the podcast almost exactly 2 years ago on episode 11, which is like pretty early on when it first got started. So
Yes. Oh my goodness. What an honor to be on 2 years later. And the Lord has done so many things. So it's so fun just to catch up again, and all that He's done. Really, He has just done so much in so many different ways for so many people in 2 years. So it's fun to think back to everything that He has done.
yes, that's why I was super excited to get you back on the show, because we've talked some in between those 2 years, and just hearing how things have kind of come to fruition in some ways and seeing what God has been doing. It's just really exciting to get to share that with whoever is listening right now.
Yes.
So I know there's definitely multiple things that have stuck with me from our previous conversation. And one of the things was God being our PR man, and the idea that we don't have to force things to happen in our lives or make things happen, but we can just rest and allow God to do the work in a way, and that He will open the doors that need to be open. So that just has stuck with me, and I'm excited to hear how that has continued to show itself true in your life,
Yes. Thank you. That's so great. Do you want me to start with that? Should I?
Yeah, sure. So feel free to dive right in. Yeah. Just sharing a little bit about what's been going on these last 2 years.
Wonderful. Well, it's really exciting to be back on, because the last time we talked, we actually had just moved to Fairfield, Connecticut, which is Southern Connecticut, really close to New York City, about an hour from New York City, but also really close to New England, and really such kind of like a gate into both places. And so even just what that looks like, even prophetically, being a gate to both the regions, there's been a lot of amazing, encouraging words that different ministry leaders have come and prayed over this region about being a gate into New England and New York City, and just the Spirit of God coming through the gate on both sides. And so it feels really exciting to be in a region where there's been a lot of sowing already and a lot of things that the Lord is doing, profound work in the arts realm there, and just with a lot of incredible ministry leaders. So it feels really, really, really rich. Like we are just jumping into rich soil. And, even when the Bible talks about that, you get to reap where others have sown. I feel that way. Yeah. It feels wonderful. So when we first got there, I was actually just waiting on the Lord for a long time. I knew that, he had put so much. I have such a rich background with dance, and I feel so humbled and honored to be used by the Lord in so many different ways in the university realm, which, secular and Christian universities in Alabama, and, have been able to jump on board and lead a lot of different mission trips, and Clayton and I were so honored to help Jeff and Natalie Lewis start Arrows, have come alongside and really been able to support some really amazing friends in our life start their vision and their mission. And so just came to this region with my hands open of, okay, here we are. Lord, we're really excited. We know we're near New York City, but what do you have? Like, what do you, the things, all the strengths and all the training that you've put inside me, where do you want that to flow out of, and who do you want us to support? So, and for a long time, actually, it didn't look like anything in the dance world. I was homeschooling my now 9-year-old going into 4th grade, which sounds so crazy old. I know.
So crazy. And she's such a sweetheart too. She is.
She's a firecracker. So just homeschooling her, and then looking around and, not seeing a whole lot of support for homeschoolers up here, and thinking, okay, do I need to completely pivot? And do I need to start a micro school? Because we just got into the homeschool community so quickly. And I feel like the Lord brought us amazing friends, just incredible families. And I could just see where things that I was, all the training and things that you'd put inside me could be used in that way. And I knew that I had the capability and the energy, and only one child, so I could start this. So that's kind of where I jumped off pursuing. And also the whole time just saying, okay, Lord, if this is it, like, I will happily move. Because I didn't see, I was building friendships with just incredible ministry leaders in this area, and also Christian dance leaders in this area. And just waiting on him, because, you never want to rush if he is preparing something for you. Just, I think something I've learned with just all of my years of living is just not to rush what he's doing, because it really is beautiful in his timing, which has been awesome.
Super good. Yeah, that's a really good, I think, word for everyone right now.
Yes.
Like, not to stress or try to push for what God has, and let it unfold in the way that he has planned and his timing. Yeah.
Yes. And honestly, the more you go through decades of your life, you understand that, because you walk through that to greater degree.
Yeah.
So that's so good. And even with that, there is you do want to make sure that you're with him, and that you don't let fear hold you back, but then you're also not stepping ahead of him and striving in your own strength. So that's definitely something that I've learned this last year. So jumping back off from waiting on the Lord, it was actually during the pandemic. My husband was the worship leader at a church here nearby, and he was on staff there, and I was actually leading the prayer ministry there. And our pastor, because I've been trained in prayer ministry, just said, I would love if you wanted to spearhead an online prayer ministry, because the pandemic happened, and, I feel like everybody just lost their sense of footing, and, we needed support. There needed to be support. And I love that they launched into, okay, prayer, that's the first thing that we should do. And so it was just this really great place for people in the church to be able to get on and just start praying. What is on the heart of the Lord for right now? What is he doing? Let's pray through this. This is epic proportion. Everybody doesn't really know what's going on. And so with that, I felt like he rekindled my always burning heart for intercession. So I just felt like he fanned the flame on that some more. And with that, I really took that seriously. Not that, I mean, just when you're always a prayer person, it's so easy just to let prayers come out. But I remember the intentionality of the Lord of, okay, I'm going to really look around, like what is going on in the region? What are other prayer ministry leaders sensing? What is going on in our region specifically? What are some of the things that he wants to birth out of this? Like, how is God being glorified in this? And so with that, I actually really started getting to know different people in our area. And then also just looking up and seeing, what is going on? What are some different visions? What are some different movements that the Lord is already doing? What are some different ministries in the area? How is he helping people that are lost and broken and scared? Because the people in the church were scared, but a lot of people not in the church were scared. And my heart started really starting to burn for communities that felt like they were not being served, underserved communities, which is so wild because at the same time, I was looking on Instagram and social media a little bit to get some more resources for, what is going on in the nation? What is the Lord doing? And just being able to propel the prayer ministry forward. And I was kind of Insta stalking Open Sky Arts Collective.
That's amazing.
Yes, which is so fun. And Jenna Vance and I have had, and we can go into that in a little bit, but we've had a history. 16 years ago, I was able to serve her while she was on staff at Dance Revolution and pregnant with her first child, Anamike. And it was such a rich, rich time. And in that time, I remember we both felt this intense depth in our heart of, oh, there's so much more. This is just the beginning. We're going to be doing ministry in the future. We really felt the richness of that and the depth of that, and didn't really know what that looked like at all. And so fast forward, 15 years later, and I'm just Open Sky keeps popping up on my Instagram feed. And at the same time, I'm seeing these different ministries in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and places right near where we are, and what pastors are doing for people that are crying out and that are hungry and not being served in their area. Yes. And so I just remember really, really looking at Open Sky and the intention of Open Sky. And so all of a sudden it did feel like this merging of just a perfect fit of, this is going to line up because it makes sense, the vehicle and the mode of how Open Sky runs, and how a huge vision of Open Sky is to restore God-given dignity to those that are hungering for it and might not even know they're hungering for it. And that is the heart cry in New England and Connecticut, just the authenticity. So yes, it felt like the heart cry of New England and this region was meshing together with the heart cry of Open Sky, and just how Open Sky serves different communities. And so all of a sudden I found myself messaging Open Sky Arts Collective, and I hadn't been in live contact with Jenna Vance for about 15 years. We had just loved each other from afar. Hey, I see you. I love you. That type of thing. And and I'm not somebody that would ever promote myself. I wouldn't even just be like, hey, choose me to lead this big arts move of God up here. And so it was more of, I see this need. This would be incredible here. People would receive this. People are hungry and the time is now. People do this really well up here. So whoever the Lord wants to choose, and I messaged her. I found myself messaging her right away, and she responded right away and said, wow, that's amazing. I would love to hear more. And then it was kind of like the Lord took over my fingers, and I felt really bold and kind of a little bit nervous, and just started writing all what he had been showing me about Open Sky and Connecticut. And I remember calling Laura Lamphere, who's my dear friend, and she's the Open Sky Houston director. And I said, Laura, I'm not quite sure what I did, but this was really bold. And then Jenna contacted me and just said, I would love to have a phone conversation. And we did. It was a week later, we talked on the phone, and it was just such deep confirmation that all of the ways that he had trained me, all of how he had created me, even my personality, the fact that was born and raised in New England. So I have a pulse on what's going on in the environment. I understand New Englanders. I have a heart already for New Englanders. I know what the struggles are in the region and what the strong points are, and all of how he had trained me in the arts and dance up until that point, and just in training with leading and prayer ministry and mentoring. And it felt like everything came to a culmination, and it was just like aha, wow.
Yeah.
This is the fit moment.
Yeah, for sure. And I love seeing the way that God weaves our stories together, and kind of you can look back and see all these different points that you're like, whoa, these are all coming together in this one thing, and that he'll continue to do that in the future too.
Yes. So that's just an encouraging note too right now to artists who feel like their training and everything that he's had them do is so intentional, because it really is. I feel like there's a lot of momentum on risk taking and building right now, just really stepping out. And if the Lord has put something on your heart, stepping out in boldness and confidence. And even reading in Hebrews, where it talks about don't throw away your confidence because there's great reward. And I feel like that has Hebrews 10. I've gone back to that over and over again of just don't throw away your confidence. There's great reward in that. And really trusting him that you can be yourself, and that he really honors, how he's created you, and you are a mouthpiece for him through it coming through the package of that you don't have to look like anybody else and compare yourself to anybody else or any other leader. So yes, last season was the first season of Open Sky Connecticut. Woohoo!
Yay!
So yes, became the artistic director of Open Sky Connecticut, and it has been such a beautiful journey. It's been one of the most precious gifts that the Lord has given me. And I feel really, again, honored and humbled, and like I have no idea what I'm doing, which is so great, because then he's the one that's really doing it, We say in our Open Sky circles that we are beautifully inadequate, because then when we are weakest is when he is strong, and he comes and he moves in our
That's
weakness.
really good. Yeah.
Yes, when we are just fully dependent on him. So we started last season. It has been an amazing journey. It was really a year of formation. So with that, there's a lot of, especially when the Lord is birthing something, there are bumps and things along the way, but there's so much grace for that. Mm-hmm. And when I say bumps, I'm thinking right now of our second Sanctuary Barre. We actually started this ministry event. I just remember sitting before the Lord, and a lot of it for leading Open Sky really looks like us as leaders, sitting in our secret, intimate place with the Lord and just saying, okay, what do you want to do? Like that's just for everything, even, for class. And when we're in class, like, what are you doing in the room? What is the pulse? I know what you said before we came in, but is there anything that you desire to shift or to change? Like, what is the pulse of what you're doing in the room, and being really intentional with that?
Yeah.
So a lot of planning, a lot of, okay, where do you desire for us to go in this region? Who do you want us to meet up with? Who do you want us to connect with? What do you want, that from what do you want this piece to look like? How can we shift this choreography? What honors you here? It's been so fun, because I feel like he really does give the answers in that place. And a lot of times he won't give the answers unless we're in that place, or unless I'm in that place.
Yeah.
So it's been such a full dependency, but then it also takes the pressure off. There's not striving there when he does it. And so that feels really good when you're trying to start something with him. And so that was wonderful. The first year, there was just a lot of grace with formation as he was forming the company, and, what do these things look like? And one of the things on his heart was starting a gathering called Sanctuary Barre, which sounds kind of funny. Mm-hmm. Open Sky started, Jenna and Grace just started doing something really fun called Kitchen Bar.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and I think that was even during the pandemic, where a lot of
Aw.
people during the quarantine, when the world was kind of shut down, and that way we could all see each other and take bar together. And I knew that the Lord had wanted to start a gathering, of artists, because there's so many beautiful artists, that professional dancers in New York City and in Connecticut that are really excellent in their art form.
Right.
And I knew that there was, how can we gather these artists together and support these artists? And how can they really receive, breath of fresh air of what the Lord is doing? And how can they move forward in their craft, but with the Lord? How can they just really be refreshed by Him as they are in these intense professional places, that He's put them? And so Sanctuary Barre was birthed out of that. And what we do is we gather together in different sanctuary spaces around Connecticut, which has been so fun just to connect with different ministry leaders that way.
It does sound really fun.
It was really fun. And it's funny because I remember the first time I thought, okay, this is so light and playful and not a big, how fun and easy. There was no pressure at all. And I just led bar to worship music, and it was so fun. And then just gave this really quick, encouraging word just to encourage artists. And then we had a potluck portion where we all came together and were able just to talk more. And a lot of times it's in, the breaking of bread together and the fellowship that there's just a lot of deep connection that happens.
Yes. And you got to love a potluck.
Yes, you gotta love a potluck. Absolutely. The divine potluck. And, and it was just so neat because He also met us so intentionally in the bar portion of Sanctuary Barre. And it became this place where it was like artists meeting face to face with the Holy Spirit. And there was so much one-on-one ministry that was happening. It wasn't like I had to drive the ministry of what was happening. He was already doing. It was like He was meeting these dancers face to face and starting almost to kind of take off layers of, comparison and performance and just heavy yokes and heavy layers that sometimes we house in our bodies without knowing it.
Yeah, we probably don't even realize it most of the time.
Yeah. And, especially in this area when there's just so much excellence in the arts. And, it was just like, it's been like gentle deliverances almost, I would say, just how He just has been kind of breathing in new life and a new awareness of how people can just take Him into their practice. And so the first Sanctuary Barre was just so fun and light and playful, and it just felt like a heart dream come true. And the second one, I remember it felt like such a crash and burn in comparison. It was just like, when God is birthing a thing, there's going to be birth pains. And I remember the sound. Oh my gosh, we were in this really wonderful church community in Connecticut, and there was a lightning storm overhead. And so there was already kind of an awareness of that happening. And then also the sound wasn't working, and it was just like crazy. I remember running back and forth to the sound booth, and I'm like, okay, this is great. Well, here we go. We're still going to do it, and let's go. And just because after the first one, I knew the intention of the Lord's heart. I knew what He desired to do. And I really wanted to make sure I did not drop the ball on stewarding His presence in that way. And it felt like some of those external things that don't really matter, those things were not happening well, the sound. And we managed to, even though it was just like wonky sound coming through the speakers, we still did it, and He still came, and it was great. And then I remember actually that encouraging word felt very, very powerful. So it was like He came anyway, even though I felt like it was just, I was such a failure. And really, it was just the Lord putting His finger on my fear of failing.
Yeah.
It's like when there's formation, He's birthing something, like those things can't be there. He was just really gently delivering me of something.
Yes. That's
Yes.
so powerful.
It's so powerful. Yes.
It's so cool hearing about Sanctuary Barre, and it's been fun seeing, speaking of stalking on Instagram, but
Yes.
it's fun
Yes.
watching, some of the little clips or photos and things that you can really see how, I mean, I'm sure it's not the same as being there in person, but seeing just
Yes.
the powerful ways that God is moving through that. So yeah, super
Yes.
cool.
It's been really fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like with this first season of formation, he has been giving me really awesome, almost like a guide along the way, but he's giving it to me as I'm walking through it,
Yeah.
which is so great. I mean, you learn by doing, and that really solidifies. I feel like when you learn things, when you're a student and you're learning, a lot of people are kinesthetic, and so they actually learn by doing.
True.
Yes. And so that is what this first year has felt like, of just learning by doing, and, successes along the way. And okay, there was a lot of grace for these moments, but now I see how we can do this better. Or now I see how you desire to incorporate this into that. And so I feel like even with our dancers, there's just been so much grace. They all jumped on board knowing that this was going to be a year of formation, and just being excited about being in a startup company, which has felt really wonderful. And Jenna and the whole Open Sky team has been so incredibly supportive. It's one of the most wonderful things about Open Sky is that it's not taking a prototype and, just taking a model and running with it without connection. It's all about really, really deep family connection.
Cool. Yeah.
So it feels like we are all best friends doing this together, and we stay interconnected. We do Zooms weekly, and we heavily support and pray for each other, which is wonderful because, we are in different regions, and it has just been such an honor to work with such flexible, amazing servanthood artists, servant artists. And so, yeah, that has been so great. It also feels like he's really been teaching me how to build and rest. That was something that he was speaking to me about early on at the beginning of the season. Is we're going to do this a different way. There's no striving here. I'm going to build this house, and I'm going to build this house in rest. And so there is that, I think we mentioned earlier, it's just that really beautiful balance in between not moving forward in confidence out of fear, like not letting fear hold you back from moving forward confidently in what he's doing, but then not pushing forward out of striving. And then when you do that, taking it on your own shoulders and feeling like everything is up to you to manage and to do.
Yeah. Building and rest feels very countercultural, I think.
Yes.
And counterintuitive in a way, but I think so profound, if we can really allow ourselves to realize we're not in control and that the God is in control, So I think that's such a beautiful picture.
Yes. Yes. And it's just that full dependency. It's that when you're in rest mode, you really are receiving it. And so it's really all the sustenance, all the blueprints, all the heart of what he wants to do. Everything flows out of that place and out of worship in that place and out of intimacy in him. And we found that as a group, that is actually an earmark strategy. That's key for us, not only for our Open Sky, but all of the Open Skies, is that tight-knit, intimate group. Like, how can we prepare a house for him in our group and really house his presence, And so we wait on him all the time. We're vulnerable together. It's very tight-knit groups, so that when we go out, that overflows, that spills out into the outreaches that we're doing. And it's really profound. It's like what you build in secret with the Lord, and what you build in secret with the Lord with close-knit community comes out into fruition when you go out and you're pouring out to others. It's kind of like you're giving your loaves and your fishes, and he multiplies it when you go out. And so that has been amazing to be a part of, and really, really humbling to be a part of.
Do you
Yeah.
want to share just a few stories, I guess, of some of the ministry things that you guys have been doing. I know, especially over the summer, y'all have gone on a couple trips and even in that Bridgeport area. So I know you mentioned about Sanctuary Barre, which is super cool because that's kind of an ongoing ministry you guys are doing.
That is an ongoing ministry. We're doing that this year. So if anybody knows of anybody in the Connecticut and the New York City region, we really have a heart to support artists as much as we can, pray for artists, come alongside artists. And it's been really wonderful. Just that fellowship and that gathering. We have been going to Bridgeport a lot. So we live in Southern Connecticut, and we do live in a little bit more of a richer, established part of Connecticut, Southern Connecticut. And so with that, there's always communities around those communities of people that, have jobs in those areas. And so Bridgeport is a key for us, a key location for doing ministry. And the Lord showed that early on. And that has just been such a breath of fresh air too, just to know part of where his heart is to go. And with that, there's an incredible rescue mission there called Bridgeport Rescue Mission. And the people that work there are so excited. They're so passionate about the Lord. And they really are a place to house people that are coming out of houselessness, coming out of, different addiction, people that need help with struggle with addiction, domestic violence, domestic abuse, men and women. And so it's just a really beautiful refuge for these people to come to, and not only have people that help them get on their feet through programs, but then a lot of different people that are able to pour into them and people that they trust to come alongside them and just speak life into them. And so we've been really, really blessed and really honored to be invited into a group there with a Women in Recovery program. And so what we do is we come in and we essentially take over their chapel time, which is so fun.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
It is so cool. It's so great. We actually share our pieces with them. And then we have a time of ministry. And a lot of times that looks like a creative movement class.
Cool.
That's all through, that's through ministry. And also where they are starting to dance to and even proclaim different scripture verses over themselves and over their lives, and that we put to movement and to music. And I remember the very first time we did that, they were actually in a different location. It was an unmarked house that was in Bridgeport, just to keep the safety of the women that go there. And so we came in, and it was November, and we started with one of our Christmas pieces, "Oh Come, Let Us Adore Him." And I had known, just because I had seen through my years of just being able to serve and come alongside ministries, I'd seen the Lord just come over and over again through outreach and his presence come. And so I knew that he was going to come in some capacity, that his presence would be there. We had prayed for that, of course, so much. And none of us really understood the magnitude of how much he was going to come, like just how he sensed his presence, how he just came really heavily into the place. And when that happened, we all were just absolutely in awe. It just felt like heaven. I remember that. I don't think that there was a dry eye in the room. People that were there, that were working in the house, offices in the house, they started coming out of their offices and joining in to what he was doing. We were just crying and ministering. And there were women that, were just really struggling with very tangible struggles that day and that moment. And his presence just came into the room, and, they just kind of crumbled down under the presence of the Lord. And we were able just to minister to them, and he was ministering to them, and he was ministering to us too. It felt like, again, gentle deliverance with us and things that we were working through. And it was just so beautiful. I felt like it was the Lord showing, like, this is what it's going to be like. This is what it's going to taste like. And not like we have to always measure, what the Lord does out of, a tangible or a manifest experience of his presence. But it was just such a gift for us then. And even for our group of some people that had never really experienced that before. And it also felt like it hit home prayer coverage, for some of us, that whole concept of having intercessors pray over us and pray for us while we were at a ministry event was a new concept. And just being able to see, wow, we prayed and people are praying for this, and he is really coming and really moving. And it was just really special and really powerful. And so fast forward, the last time that we went to the Bridgeport Rescue Mission, because we had been going in monthly, that woman that was there from the very beginning, so amazing. And I remember looking at her, I remember her countenance from the very beginning. She came to the very last one. And again, I just feel like the Lord just really honors the people who pray and those that are hungry and thirsty for him, and he inhabits the praises of his people. And so he really did come every time with his presence, and really came tangibly where people could feel. And he moved in all of our hearts, and I could feel him lifting things and shifting things and taking off burdens from us and the women that we were ministering to there. And so that last time, it just felt like a culmination. It was, his presence came pretty much as heavily as it did the first time. And that sweet woman that was there the first time, she came and she just held me the last time, and we just held each other. And I remember our breath sinking as one, and we just held each other and we breathed in and out for what seemed like a half hour. And then after that, she just said, "Thank you. Thank you." She just kept repeating that over, and we're both crying, and I'm saying, "Thank you," because we're just so honored to be there. And she just said, "I just have to tell you that I was here the very first time, and I'm about to go home. I feel completely different. This ministry, and your obedience of you all coming and just being so, consistent and coming and pouring into us, like, it has changed me." That and the Bridgeport Rescue Mission and all that they've been able to equip me. And she said, I'm going home and I feel equipped and I don't feel afraid. And I just wanted to say, thank you. Thank you. And we just were both crying. And I was, that was such a gift for me, because I remember even that last day not wanting to go. I felt so tired and felt like the season was done. And it was just such a gift to know that it was just really beautiful what he did, and that it was really important that we were there.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
And I can touch real quick on this last summer. That was really fun, because it did feel like tasting heaven. It's when you find your tribe and your people that you're running hard after the Lord with, and you've been vulnerable with. And so there is that level of intimacy with each other. It's really, again, it just feels really precious to be able to go out and do ministry with those people, because you're all in the same heartbeat. You feel seen and loved and known. And it felt like that happened with both of our mission trips. I felt just incredibly blessed to be able to go on both of the mission trips this summer. And the first one was kind of like an old school Open Sky trip to Cookeville, Tennessee, which has been awesome. And our goal and our heart was, okay, let's see how we can serve this community. Is this a community that we can make connections to, so that we can start an Open Sky clubhouse where we would come in for a week and partner with the church there and set up a clubhouse, which is what we've been doing in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and actually serve the community and serve the kids in a greater way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So what it looked like is we did a mini clubhouse. We did 2 days, and we did about a 3-hour long camp. We also did a block party in the rain. That was so fun.
Yeah.
It always feels like when you're breaking ground, that there's always some sort of a rainstorm, and it's awesome, because then you get to end up dancing in the rain. And it did rain during our block party, and the people that came, they said, we came back because you guys stayed in the rain. And that just signals to me that, we're worth it and you mean it. And that was really, really special. And so we got to canvass the neighborhood, and we went door to door, and people brought their kids to just the arts camp that we had set up. And it was really, really special. Again, I feel like with Open Sky Clubhouse, Open Sky, since they've been doing it for about 8 years, Jenna really knows how to talk the language for kids of how to share Jesus with children and with, children that are in poorer communities. And so even, the arts and crafts that we did with the kids was about, let's draw a house, and this house is a representative of your heart. And when Jesus comes into your heart, does he care if the house is in order? No. Does he barge in the door? No. Does he,
Yeah.
so
That's cool.
that was really special. And we made keys, we made necklaces with them, keys to their heart, and Jesus being the key to their heart. So we got to really walk them through a lot of key activities that really help them understand the heart of the Lord and the kingdom of God. And you really at their level. And that was really, really significant. A lot of times they just buddy up with you there in the Tennessee one. And then when we did our Open Sky Clubhouse in West Virginia, and that's the group that we had been going to for 6 years prior. And so we have community there, keep up with the kids there. The kids are really excited to come back every year. They come back and they say, Miss Jenna, we're still reading our Bibles. We're following Jesus. We're going to church.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. What has been started is continuing. And there's a church there that is painted cotton candy pink so that the kids know that the church is a safe place. And that neighborhood struggles with opioid addiction. And so with that, you get a lot of poverty, you get abuse and neglect and different things that come along with a community and poverty and parents that are really struggling, with opioid addiction. It was the top third in the nation of worst neighborhoods struggling with opioid addiction. And so that we can come and we can be, feet on the ground in the nitty gritty, hands and feet of Jesus, and loving and listening to kids. And a lot of times kids buddy up with us and they really start to feel safe and they share their experiences, and you get to really love on kids and speak things into their lives that they hold on to and that the Lord uses. And that's really beautiful. I feel like the entire experience, nothing stands out as a one-time experience that is any special than any other, because it felt like the whole thing was just amazing, just a ride with the Lord.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I love the kids. Yes.
That's so cool. I love hearing all the impact and the stories and seeing the impact of being somewhere for a consistent period of time and coming back and seeing the growth and change that happens year after year.
Yeah, because there is a discipleship that ends up happening, whereas that last year, there ended up being a lot of baptisms and a lot of kids giving their lives to the Lord. And this year, it was just even unprecedented how many kids came back. It was the most kids that have come back in Clubhouse history.
Wow.
And so we got to move forward with that. We got to start to disciple them. They were so excited. We got to teach them how to highlight their Bibles and how to read Bibles. And we gave them all Bibles and highlighters. And they were so excited to learn how to find different scriptures and how to highlight in their Bibles. And they'd come back the next day and say, Miss Jessie, I was highlighting here and the Lord showed me here. And I mean, it's just amazing how he really comes and it meets with these kids in the midst of all that's going on in their lives, and that he really is the light in the darkness.
Yeah.
The Lord is changing the destiny over the lives of these families, and we're just such a small part of that. But it's so awesome, again, to be a part of something that he's building, that he is doing, that we just get to come alongside and step into and just learn how to love people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing and giving us a glimpse into what's going on with Open Sky. It's so fun to hear.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
So I am super curious because I always love hearing your thoughts. What is on your heart right now to share with other artists?
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that question. I do feel like there's so many things. I feel like the first thing is if he's put something on your heart to build with him, I feel like there's so much momentum right now with actually building with him, going out and doing it. There's so many artists that I know that are actually jumping into huge God dreams, that things that the Lord has always put on their heart to do. And it seems like all across the board, people are doing it now. Now's the time to do it. It feels like there's support from the body of Christ like never before to do those things, but also just that he's there and he's got our back, and now is the time. That Buchner quote that talks about that God meets us in the place where our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. And so it's like what he has prepared, what we're so excited about doing, what we're really passionate about doing, even if it is a risk, that meets the world's great hunger, what the world is hungering for, because he put that inside us and he knows what the world is hungering for. And such a time as this to go out and feed the world with the feast that he has given us. And so just to encourage artists just to launch out and step out in faith and do it, and to dream with the Lord, and then meet with him in that secret, intimate place and get the blueprint for it, and then run with it, that he really will bring the backup, and he really will be the support for you, and he will bring people along to support you, because he's doing that right now in so many different places all across the globe.
Yes, so good. Oh, man.
Another thing that I really want to encourage artists with is that just not comparing themselves with others.
Ooh, that's so hard, but so good.
It is it's so hard. It's been so awesome for Open Sky, because with Open Sky, we do have DNA. I mean, how gracious of the Lord to give a model that he wants to replicate, And so there is that tight-knit community. And the Lord showed Jenna early on Open Sky as a house. And then this huge house, it wasn't that every single room was painted the exact same color or looked the exact same way, but every room in the house was painted a different color and looked a different way. And so with that, she said, hey, there's so much grace just to run with. Each community is going to look different, and it's going to, how you lead the community is going to look different, and you be you, take authority over your region, be a strong leader in your region. And so having that permission just to go and be who you are in the Lord with the Lord, and not having to replicate something, is so amazing. And even learning that as you come across other ministry leaders that you befriend and come alongside of in life, that is the Lord's graciousness. And instead of comparing yourself of, oh, maybe I'm lacking in these areas, actually looking at that with gratitude, that is such a gift that we have these relationships with these other people, because iron sharpens iron and they can strengthen us. That has just been such a wonderful key of just saying, wow, how can I learn from these people? I have so much to learn. I definitely always feel like a weak thing of the world. And that's exactly where he wants us to be. And it's so good to be fully reliant and dependent on him, because he does. Scripture promises and says that he takes the weak things of the world to shame the wise, which also talks about different structures in the world that are man-made, that are not God-made, that he does not want there. And so he takes the weak things of the world, or the foolish things, or the playful things, or things that feel like they are not religious or not important, to actually break down and tear down those lofty things that try to exalt themselves above the Lord. And we've seen that, we've seen that with Open Sky. And sometimes what feels like a covert ministry, something that is just under the radar and hidden, is very, very significant.
Yeah.
And that's so I just want to encourage those artists as well that feel like that the ministry is very much hidden and covert, that is also, the Lord is really in that. For Open Sky, a lot of what we do is we do things in what we call, in the spirit realm. So, when we are actually worshiping, things are being affected in the spirit. There's powerful things that happen. And the Lord gave us a vision early on of even just a group outside a building in India. And we were doing what he called love dances. We were just worshiping outside on the street corner. And it was in that, and in that worship, all of a sudden red tape was cut in the spirit, and these doors flung open to this building. And this building was a building where kids were enslaved. And it was like we were able to rush in on this rescue mission and bring all the kids out.
Wow.
So you never know how powerful what you're actually doing in secret with him is in the natural, and how that's actually breaking down things in the natural, because prayer moves and changes things, and so does worship.
Yeah, that's so good. And just such an encouragement, I think, that will really resonate, with each of us, including myself. So I really appreciate you just sharing that from your heart today. And you probably remember this question from the last time you were here, but
Yes.
I was curious, what is one of your favorite things right now? So we can get the 2022 version.
Yes, so good. And I do feel like I might even be saying the same thing.
That's okay. It could still be your favorite thing.
Yes. So it's the Cageless Birds Cultivate albums that I love. They're devotionals from the Cageless Birds. I'm reading The Art of Connection, and it's actually the second edition. The first one's where they're talking about art of connection between the families and spouses and kids, which is a jewel. So much incredible information. The second one is about art of communication within community. And I feel like every time I open the page, it's just like mic drop, like absolute.
Wow.
Did I just say that? It's so funny. It feels like huge things I'm gleaning that just make so much sense. So I've actually been reading that, coupled with Tales of the Kingdom, which is this beautiful, beautiful book series. And I feel like, yes, it's for children and it's for adults. And I feel like in story form, it just teaches spiritual warfare in this really beautiful way, and even how to operate in spiritual gifts. And so I'm really excited, because I feel like creatively there's momentum on something that he wants to birth through Open Sky Connecticut, through Tales of the Kingdom in dance form. And so I'm really excited to jump into that project. So I feel like I'm doing a lot of research right now, and it's really exciting.
I love that. So good. Yes. So I'm curious, what is the best way for people to connect with you, and then also with Open Sky, and specifically Open Sky Connecticut?
Absolutely. So my Instagram handle is A Tenacious Dance. And then Open Sky Connecticut is the same. We're on Instagram as well. And it is Open Sky _Connecticut. And you can also find us just Open Sky Arts, and then Open Sky Arts on Instagram. And they will also bring you to the different Open Sky branches. So yes, we would love if anybody wants to reach out, has any questions. We're really excited about what the Lord is doing in this area.
Yay. And I would love to also let people know, I guess they can go check it out on Instagram, and also y'all's website, and just see ways that they can support the work that's going on. So that's probably the best place, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're always looking for inviting people in that want to be a part of what we're doing through prayer, in connections too, especially with Open Sky Connecticut and then Open Sky Colorado. I mean, really all of us are always just open to connections, so any ministry leaders in the areas that are also looking to serve, partner with an organization that can spearhead outreaches towards underserved communities, we would absolutely love to be in communication with you, to have contact with you, to dream with you. The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Yes, so fun.
Love it. Well, Jessie, this has been such an incredible gift. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your story. And everyone should definitely go back and listen to episode 11 so they can get your backstory as well.
Yes.
So thankful for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for all that you do on here.
Oh, thanks. Isn't Jessie just the best? She is such a beautiful person, and I loved getting to reconnect with her today. Be sure to go check out Open Sky Connecticut on Instagram and send them some love. You can find all the links and the full show notes on our website, creativeimpactpodcast.com. There's also some additional resources if you're interested in starting your own podcast or wanting to find some new book recommendations. You can check that out on the website as well. If you're interested in supporting the show, you can check out our Patreon community at creativeimpactpodcast.com/Patreon. Patrons are our monthly supporters that help make the show possible, and they also get access to bonus content. I would be so honored if you would consider becoming a patron of the podcast today. Another simple way to support the show is just to rate and review the show wherever you happen to be listening. Thank you so much for joining us today. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash. Until next time, remember that you were designed to create. You were made to inspire. Continue living with purpose and making an impact. See you next time, friends.